Coming up next, CompuServe bans gays from the internet, gay marriage back in the headlines, the controversy over JRs continues, and an interview with the first-time filmmaker Deborah Hoffman. All of this plus exclusive footage from AIDS Walk 95 and much more on the second episode of the Gay News Network.
Hi, I'm Holly Landau.
And I'm Joe Liberatore.
Welcome to this, the second edition of the Gay News Network.
Topping the list of our international stories, gay Star Trek fans are pulled from the internet, as CompuServe, an online service provider, pulled gay Star Trek as well as other gay-related news groups worldwide. The protest came after the German government threatened CompuServe with criminal charges for transporting pornography over the internet. CompuServe then pulled over 200 news groups, apparently based on names rather than content. Banned internet sites include several discussion groups for gay issues, a social support group for gay youth, a gay Jewish group, and a support group for those just coming out. Michael Petrillis of Americans for Gay Rights, a San Francisco-based group, staged a boycott of 2 German-brewed beers to protest this censorship of the internet. Petrillis said, "We want to send the German government a message that says we want them to keep their hands off the internet." Americans for Gay Rights continued their protest of censorship by pouring bottles of Beck's and St. Pauli Girl beer down the sewer in front of the Goethe Institute, a German cultural center in San Francisco.
De Neuve, the lesbian magazine with a circulation of over 200,000 readers worldwide, is reportedly changing its name to Curve. The name change is a result of a lawsuit filed against the magazine by actor Catherine Deneuve. The lawsuit was first filed in Paris, then L.A. Lawyers for Deneuve are suing publisher Outspoken Enterprises for violating state and federal trademark laws by using the actor's last name. Deneuve, who has starred in several movies with lesbian themes, including The Hunger and Belle du Jour, markets her own line of cosmetics using her last name and believes the trademark is rightly hers.
100,000 Poles report seeing a priest at a theater near them. The motion picture priest, that is. As reported in our premiere show, the film Priest, recently released in Europe, drew a strong reaction from the Catholic Church, with the strongest opposition to the film coming from Poland. The Catholic Church went so far as to issue condemnations of the film, calling it both repulsive and pornographic. That, however, didn't stop literally thousands of Poles from seeing the movie. The film's distributors estimate as many as 100,000 Poles have already seen the film, and that the critical comments from the church may have actually backfired, causing people to see the film, to check out what all of the clamor was about. The film is still running in Europe and continues to draw big crowds. The Pope takes a whack at safe sex. The Vatican recently published its sex education guide entitled Human Sexuality, Truth, and Significance. This 60-page booklet, a rule book for Christians, says that parents must refute the promotion of safe sex or safer sex based on the idea that a condom can provide sufficient protection against AIDS. Reportedly, the handbook advises parents not to talk about homosexuality with their children and recommends that parents seek counseling for homosexual teens, and goes on to denounce homosexuality, to prohibit masturbation, and call safe sex a dangerous and immoral policy.
Gay couples gain cohabitation rights in the City of Lights. Officials in Paris have announced that gay couples who have lived together over 1 year may now be granted cohabitation certificates. 6 district officials said the decision is intended to contribute to the equality among citizens without regard to their personal living situation. The certificates amount roughly to the equivalent of a French marriage license. And now in national news, a story of a different sort coming out of the halls of Congress as chubby hubby of Enid Waldholtz is charged with bad taste. In the continuing story of Congressional Representative Enid Waldholtz, representative from Utah, and her campaign finance and marriage woes, all of which she blamed on her husband Joseph, comes a new charge. This delivered through Mrs. Waldholtz's attorney that Mr. Waldholtz is now accused of having a questionable lifestyle. Enid's latest accusation is that her husband made repeated questionable lifestyle choices, which included collecting gay male pornographic magazines. The materials are said to have been found throughout the couple's closets in both of their homes. Mrs. Waldholz's attorney suggested that these findings may have had a dramatic effect on divorce proceedings and custody disputes over their infant daughter Elizabeth. This according to United Press International.
Former activist Luke Sissifag is straight and now verbally bashing gays. In what is either one of the strangest turnarounds in modern times or perhaps another shameless attempt at self-promotion, D.C.'s one-time mayoral candidate and renegade gay activist Luke Sissifag, pictured here with myself and GNN cameraman Steve Kisley, now says that he has joined forces with the fundamentalist anti-gay movement. Luke appeared last summer on Phil Donahue promoting himself and his agenda. According to an issue of the Seattle Gay News, Sissifag, whose real name is Luke Montgomery, is still trumpeting his turnaround to anyone who will listen, and recently appeared on Christian radio stations nationally to approve the fundamentalist attacks on the gay community.
An Episcopal bishop may be stripped. According to a story in the Washington Post, 71-year-old retired Episcopal Bishop Ryder faces charges of heresy for ordaining a gay man that was living with another gay man at the time of his ordination. The charges stem from Ryder's 1990 ordination of Barry Stoipfel as a deacon in Newark, New Jersey. Stoipfel said he lived with the man and planned to continue doing so. Ryder would be only the second person ever to be tried of charges of heresy through the denomination's judicial review process. 10 of Ryder's fellow bishops have accused him of violating an Episcopal church law that forbids ordaining either gays or heterosexuals who are sexually active outside of marriage. Located on the corner of 13th and U Streets, in what was once considered the heart of D.C.'s theater and jazz district, the National Minority AIDS Council, or NMAC as it's more commonly referred to, transformed a roughly 100-year-old burned-out building shell into a landmark and their new headquarters. NMAC offers on-site technical assistance and training and helps to develop leadership within the communities of color throughout its public policy department. The organization also provides education through the publication of various newsletters and lobbies Congress on HIV and AIDS issues specific to minorities. The National Minority AIDS Council, formed in 1987, annually assists more than 700 member organizations.
The Gay and Lesbian Activist Alliance, a longtime voice in Washington activism, recently elected new officers. Mindy Daniels was elected as vice president, and Rick Rosendahl replaced outgoing president Jeff Cordwright. You'll remember in our first show, we told you that the popular gay tavern JR's, located on 17th Street in the district, had applied for licenses to serve alcoholic beverages on their outdoor patio. This would require a change in their operating license from that of a tavern to that of a cafe. Their application was met with strong opposition. JR's general manager, Eric Little, noted that 18 establishments along the popular 17th Street strip already operate as outdoor cafes, so he fails to see the problem. D.C.'s Public Space Commission is expected to rule on JR's application in the very near future. We'll keep you posted. GNN will be right back after these messages with the Gay Agenda and filmmaker Deborah Hoffman.
Bobby Griffith died at the age of 20. He didn't have a disease. He wasn't involved in gang violence or drugs. Bobby Griffith killed himself because he was gay. Bobby Griffith's mother is a good woman. She didn't mean for her son to die so tragically, but like so many others, she allowed herself to believe the bigotry that led to her young son's death. Love and support your gay and lesbian children. That's what Mary Griffith would do if only she and Bobby could start over.
Gay and lesbian Americans, our rights,
our lives
are being challenged every day. As Americans, we can do something about it. Vote. If we don't vote, others will decide our future for us.
Voting equals power. Power equals change.
Your vote will make a difference.
Come out voting. Register today.
Welcome back to GNN. Now it's time for the political portion of the show. We call it the Gay Agenda.
That's right, Holly. Today our panel of experts will discuss a topic right out of today's headline, gay marriage.
Hello and welcome to the Gay Agenda. I'm your host, Anthony Rios. With me today is Mario Solis-Marich, owner of Solis-Marich & Associates based in Los Angeles, LETITIA Gomez, the executive director of the National Latino, Latina, Lesbian, and Gay Organization, CATHY Renna, the co-chair of the local chapter of the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, and Rick Rosendahl with the Gay and Lesbian Activist Alliance here in Washington, D.C. The question I'd like to put to you today is this. Gay and lesbian marriages and gay and lesbian unions from Alaska, Hawaii, we've seen the thing upstate New York. Gay and lesbian people want to have their marriages legally recognized. How does that impact us? Are we trying to emulate our heterosexual counterparts? Are we looking for tax benefits, or what's the larger political statement? Who'd like to start?
It's an issue of simple, equal rights. We have the right to make the same range of choices as anyone else, whether it might be wise or foolish. We have a long ways to go to organize and be ready for the aftermath, for example, of an expected victory in the Hawaii Bear versus Lewin case. But it's been delayed another year, and so hopefully we'll use the time to do the proper organizing. LETITIA, I believe, was in a gay wedding ceremony at one point, and of course a marriage doesn't require a ceremony, but I come from a different perspective. In one sense, I wrote and officiated at a wedding last fall, and what the two men that I married want, and what gay men and lesbians want, is the simple right to have the state recognize their relationships the same way they recognize others. Not some church that doesn't want to recognize them. Our own churches recognize our relationships just as someone else's recognizes theirs. And it's that simple. It's freedom to be different.
Yeah, the other thing is that just, you know, and you asked about, are we emulating heterosexuals?
Right.
I think part is that, you know, in the society, we want to be validated as individuals, I think, many times. And part of us as individuals is when we do enter into partnerships, that we, in our gay and lesbian communities, have them validated by our friends. And some of us have gone, like I and Sabrina did, went the other step of having it validated by our families. But I think that then the next step, I think, is to have it validated by the society you live in. And in this, we're asking for legal, basically, validation of the union.
And lots of the controversy that comes out in terms of media coverage is using the word marriage, which is a very loaded term in this country. It has a lot of religious implications, like you said. But that's all we're looking for, is the recognition of our relationships. I mean, I think the community has progressed, that we have much more recognition as individual people, as gay and lesbian Americans. But recognizing our relationships will dismantle many of the stereotypes.
But I mean, haven't we all heard the story, though, that we're afraid that as this passes in Hawaii, we're going to have states trying to shut us down all over the place, and people are wondering whether this is a good strategy or not. I mean, you know, and I really think that what we're seeing here is the fact that this is finally a real movement, that the gay and lesbian community in all its facets is a real movement. People are moving beyond whatever agenda is being set, whether it be in San Francisco, Washington, D.C., or New York, where the national organizations exist, and they're moving forward, you know, on their own. Well, and I think there's some scrambling going on, you know, to say, hey, you know, we're going to get shut down by certain states. You know, we want to stop the ballot initiatives. Maybe this is going too quickly. And I think it's very telling, because I think the future of the gay and lesbian movement is going to be like that. We're going to continue to see people in our communities move way beyond anywhere our organizations want to be.
And I think we have to recognize that we cannot have some sort of, or expect to have, a monolithic movement where everybody follows orders. We have couples in different parts of the country that want to get married, and they, for example, in Ithaca, New York, the mayor wants to give them the marriage license.
Exactly.
Other members of our leaders of our movement who are doing a lot of work on the effort, long range, to get legal marriage rights, are afraid that that might be bad timing, but at the same time they're torn because they don't want to advocate somebody not seek their marriage license. There is one bit of networking going on online and internet. There's an email group that people interested in preparing for the fight sign on to, and then we network back and forth for the price of a local phone access call.
Well, that leads me to a whole other area of that, is that some local papers in different parts of the country are actually printing pictures of people's unions and their marriages, or whatever they choose to call it. And I think it's a large step forward for our movement, when you actually can open up your local chronicle or whatever you may call it, and there's a picture of couple A and couple B that have celebrated their marriage or their lifelong commitment to each other. And I think one of the things for me is that, what are we saying? Are we saying marriage? Are we demonstrating our commitment? What is the message that we're trying to get across?
Well, that's actually a thing that GLAAD's been working on with the Washington Post. They refuse to print gay and lesbian commitment ceremonies or holy unions in their announcement section. And their argument is that they're not legally recognized relationships. You know, there are lots of people out there that want to have their relationships recognized legally. The difference is that in the rest of the straight community, you can choose to get married or not. But in the gay and lesbian community, you don't have that choice. You don't have the choice to take that step and have a union and have it be legally recognized.
But that's just a disingenuous claim by the Washington Post anyway.
Sure.
Exactly.
That's the first time that the legality of the issue ever came up was when they needed to come up with an excuse to deny these people, because there's lots of announcements put in. An anniversary is not a legally recognized event, as far as I know, or an engagement,
right?
And so it's just an excuse for bigotry. And the more people push for it and ask for it, and precedents are set by other papers doing it, people will get more used to it, and eventually we're going to win.
One of the, in order to wrap this whole thing up, one of the things I say is we've really got to get our network stronger. We've got to really strengthen our grassroots efforts all across the country. It's going to take a lot of money and a lot of power from every member of the gay and lesbian community. I want to thank our guests for being with us today. Now back to our host. Thank you.
Welcome back. Next up is a very special piece we would like to share with you.
The next segment was contributed by our own Pearson Brown, and it spotlights the first directing efforts of Deborah Hoffman.
Thanks again, Debbie, for being with us. And let me, first, we just finished watching the screening of your film, and you received a standing ovation. This is an extraordinary personal story that you've shown. Tell me about it first. Just capsulize it for our audience.
Well, it's a film. It was initially a film about my response to my mother's decline from Alzheimer's. Ultimately, it became a film about both of us, about her decline and her dealing with it, and my response and my dealing with her decline.
And what did you set out to do by making this movie?
Well, I think the primary thing was it was self-therapy. It was the best therapeutic thing I could possibly have done, and it was very successful that way. It really was incredibly cathartic for me. But the other thing that I set out to do is, when I was in the throes of caring for my mother or deciding what to do with my mother, because I am involved in film, I looked at a lot of films on the subject of Alzheimer's, and they didn't help me in the slightest. In fact, they did just the opposite. They frightened me, they depressed me, they gave me no hope whatsoever.
The first indication that this was maybe a little more than just getting a little forgetful was when my father died. And she managed to call and tell me that he had died. I flew home. I flew back to New York. When I got there, she didn't know where the body was. She had no idea what had happened to the body. And in fact, then over the next few days, she had no idea that he had died. And she kept asking where he was, which was disconcerting to have to keep saying, well, he died yesterday.
You know, we each had a relationship with Hamish. And then he was gone, and he was a different person.
And what do you hope people take away from this film? What message do you hope they learn?
Well, I don't know if I think of it in terms of learning. I certainly hope that other caregivers and the family members have comfort from it. And then beyond that, I do think that this film is about more than just the specific disease of Alzheimer's. I do think that the revelation that I came to with my mother about not trying to bring her back to the world that she couldn't really be in anymore applies to anybody who's changing in any way, anybody who's aging, anybody who has any illness, anybody who's not the person you wish they exactly were. I mean, I do think it did have larger lessons for me, and I hope it does for other people.
Well, it was an incredible film, and thank you for making it, and thanks for being with us.
Thanks very much.
Looks like she's off to a great start.
Yeah, what an exciting time it must be for Deborah. We here at GNN wish her continued success.
Next up, an interview with Evan Wolfson, head of the Marriage Project for Lambda Legal Defense.
There's a case in Hawaii, which I'm co-counsel on, along with Dan Foley of Hawaii, in which we seem very likely to win. the right to marry. It is likely that with this case in Hawaii, we will prevail through the court system and see a ruling from the Hawaii Supreme Court, perhaps within the next year or 18 months, saying that lesbians and gay men have an equal right to marry. At that point, there will be an enormous response across the country, both positive and negative, and there will be a backlash. And the backlash will not just be legal, it will be political. We will see radical right legislators introduce bills in legislatures in every state and in Congress intended to block recognition of our marriages or thwart recognition, so that when people go and get married and come back married, they will still have to fight for the right to be recognized as married. This means that we have to get out front. We have to begin preparing now to educate people about our relationships, about our families, about our right to define our families, and our right to participate equally in the central social institution of our society, marriage, and in other critical family rights, such as parenting. We have an opportunity now because we're going to get their attention. Winning the right to marry is going to get the public's attention in a way nothing else ever has, with the possible exception of AIDS. The Hawaii case is, on the one hand, just a case, and no one case is enough to be the end of everything. We're not done when we win the case. On the other hand, the fact that that Hawaii case is out there is going to propel an immense moment in which we will have a chance to talk to the American people about our relationships, as well as to fight critical political and legal battles in every state. And we all have to watch and see what the Hawaii trial court and then the Hawaii Supreme Court will do with that case. But we can't just sit and watch and see it. If we sit around and watch it, when it comes, we won't have been ready to defend it. The question is, what are the rest of us and the rest of the country doing to prepare to defend this incredibly important right once we win it? So it's, of course, important to see what's going on in court, but if we're just watching it or just leaving it to the lawyers or just leaving it for Hawaii, we're going to be caught off guard when our enemies attack us back here on the mainland. This is an issue because of the importance of marriage and the centrality of it as a social and national institution. This is an issue that's going to play out in every part of the country. We all have to get ready by doing political organizing and public education in every state in the country, beginning now with the national groups, but also with local groups. Everyone has to get involved in this now.
Wow, Evan really has his work cut out for him.
That's true. And some other people who really had their work cut out for them were those supporting the cause in our community of the Whitman Walker Annual AIDS Walk.
On September 22nd, 1995, our nation's capital blocked off many of its main avenues so that the Whitman Walker Clinic could hold an important annual fundraiser, the AIDS Walk.
It's going to be a great day. It's a loving feeling in the air, and everybody just seems to be part of it. These are people I don't even know, but yet we've come here for a purpose and love, and I think you'll see this all around.
Okay. $715. $715? It's really a nice community experience, and I look forward to doing it even next year.
Thousands volunteered to walk, run,
redeemed at the very last minute.
Or man information tables.
I think it's great to see all these people out trying to raise money for a good cause such as AIDS research and trying to find a cure for the AIDS epidemic.
Community leaders such as Tipper Gore and Eleanor Holmes Norton led more than 80,000 walkers through the streets of Washington, D.C.
1, 2, 3, 8 blocks started. Let's step off.
Some held photos of loved ones who were victims of AIDS.
I'm walking for my brother because he died of AIDS 3 years ago. This is a bad disease. They should find a cure for it fast.
While others walked to show their support. All helped to raise funds and awareness so that someday we may find a cure for this devastating disease.
I feel that it's a tragic disease that's taken away a lot of people, and I'm just hoping that we can raise enough money to kind of like give towards the cause so people can find a cure.
Sure looks like those walkers had a lot of fun.
Well, we have a lot of fun here too, Joe.
That's true.
If you'd like to join us and be a part of our production crew, then you can write to us.
Send your letters to the Gay News Network, 2929 Eskridge Road, Suite S, Fairfax, Virginia, 22031, 2213, or call 202-223-2233. 0477.
For GNN, I'm Holly Landau.
And I'm Joe Liberatore.
See you next show.